Welcome. Please stand for the presentation of colors by the Luther Burbank High School ROTC and the national anthem performed by Vadia Rhodes.
Part time, march, left colors, halt, left, place.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Right, pace, forward, march, left, right.
Thank you to the Luther Burbank High School ROTC and Vadia Rhodes. Good afternoon and welcome to the 13th Annual Voter Education and Candidate Forum presented by the Asian Pacific Islander American Public Affairs Association, APAPA, in conjunction with community organizations from across the state. Can you believe it's been 13 years for this amazing event? I'm your event MC, Pamela Wu, Communications Director at UC Davis School of Law and substitute host of Insight on Capital Public Radio. This forum is a nonpartisan educational event. It's going to allow you to hear from candidates and advocates directly as they discuss the issues affecting our community and our state. In today's forum, you will see and hear candidates from congressional, state senate, and assembly races, as well as a debate on a local measure, Measure L, the Sacramento Checks and Balances Act. Many have been referring to it as the Strong Mayor Initiative. We will keep a tight and fast-paced program today. You can refer to the schedule of events inside your event booklet. Meanwhile, in the lobby, there are a lot of voter registration booths and information booths about candidates, initiatives, and organizations, so please go visit them when you have the chance. We do ask that you be respectful to our speakers here and also to your fellow audience members throughout the program if you get up to check out the booths or get some refreshments. Today's forum would not be possible without the support of our amazing sponsors. So let's please recognize our event sponsors. Here now are Lucy Obach and Amy Tong of APAPA.
Thank you, Pamela. Lucy and I, this is our 13 years doing this forum together, and we just want to take this opportunity to once again thank our major sponsors who's been sponsoring this year after year after year. So Lucy will be giving out the plaque, and I will be calling the sponsor up. And audience, please help us to give them a big round of applause as they come up, because really without these sponsors and the wonderful volunteers who's been together for the past over a decade, we could not make this forum possible. So with that, let's start with Ing McDonald, representing Ing McDonald, Regina Ing. Please come up. We also have Wells Fargo, AT&T, Greater Sacramento McDonald Operator Association, Comcast, Bank of the West, and Golden Arch McDonald. They're all here today. Not only they've been sponsoring, but they've been taking the time and come visit us. Thank you so much, guys. All right, Pamela, come right back up to keep our program moving. Thank you, sponsors.
This event is the result of months of hard work by the Community Organization Coalition, so please give them a round of applause as the respective organization leaders come up to the stage. Right now, I'd like to read a list of those outstanding organizations. Asian Pacific Community Counseling, the Council on American Islamic Relations, the Council of Asian Pacific Islanders Together for Advocacy and Leadership, also known as CAPITAL, the Cal Asian Chamber of Commerce, the Greater Sacramento Urban League, the Five Rivers Professionals and Business Owners Association, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, NAACP, the Organization of Chinese Americans, Russian American Media, the Sacramento Asian Pacific Chamber of Commerce, and the Slavic American Chamber of Commerce. Now, to officially open the event, I would like to welcome to the stage the First Lady of Sacramento, Michelle Rhee.
Thank you, and good morning. You know, it's funny because a few days ago, my husband and I were going through his calendar, and he said, this weekend is going to be absolutely crazy. There's so much stuff going on. Look at this list of events for Saturday. And he started, you know, ticking off all the things that he had to do. He had to go do a press conference to open a dog park. As you all know, he is the president of the U.S. Conference of Mayors, and the Mayors Conference is actually holding a convening today, tomorrow, and Monday here in Sacramento. So we have 50 mayors from across the country who are here in Sacramento. The Sacramento Republic, our minor league soccer team, is in the championships tonight. And he says, you know, and there's a PAPA event, and there's so much to do, I can't actually be to all these places. And I said, and a PAPA event? I said, honey, I got that one. So you don't have to worry about that one. Now, it's interesting because we've been married for about 3 years now. And oftentimes he will, you know, send me out to events when he can't make it. Recently he's been sending me out to a lot of events in the African American community. And he will say, okay, you know, babe, when you go, you have to say, this is what we need to do, our community. And you know, when we first got married and he started doing this to me, I looked at him and I said, honey, you do know that I am not black. And he said, don't worry about it. Now, you're black adjacent. And so that gives you license to go out into all those forums and talk on behalf of me because you're black adjacent. So the good news is that adjacency goes both ways. And I have, over the last 3 years, been training my husband up in the ways of Asian culture. So I've been making some good progress. Now, when he comes into the house, the first thing that he does is take off his shoes. When I met him, he would not touch any kind of sushi. But now we go to Makuni and all those places all the time. He's not eating the raw stuff yet, but I'm getting him there. And most importantly, so my husband for 45 years before we got married was a bachelor. And so when we got married, he was very concerned about his in-laws and how he was going to ensure that my parents liked him. So the first time that we went to my parents' house, he's like, what should I do? And I said, I got one piece of advice for you. I said, when you sit down at the table, just eat whatever she puts on your plate and don't stop until she's done doling it out. He said, okay, so now my husband can down 3 bowls of kimchi without blinking an eye. He's got it down. So you all can rest assured that the interests of the API community in Sacramento will always be well represented because your mayor is Asian adjacent. One of the things that Kevin and I are most excited about today is the fact that you get to participate in this voter education forum. You're going to hear from a lot of different candidates. You will be able to hear from our own May Lee Tom on Measure L on the pro side today. Because I am here in my capacity as First Lady and not on the Measure L campaign, I will not tell you which way to vote because I am a little biased on that one. But what I will say is that the most important thing is that you really listen and learn. This is one of the most critical issues that faces our city today is what our governance structure is going to look like. And having participated in a lot of these debates, I think it's important for you to really listen to the tone and tenor of what each side is saying. And I will say this, that the people who are opposed to Measure L use a lot of words like don't and no and stop. And that is not a bad thing. It's not a wrong thing. It's just different from what my husband aspires to in this city. He wants to be a city of yes, and we can, and let's do it. He loves this city more than anything. He believes that this city has so much potential. And we know that in order to meet that potential, we have to have a person who is leading the city who is directly accountable to the voters. And so that is why he is so excited about you all having the opportunity to hear about Measure L today. But regardless of which way you vote on this issue, regardless of which way you vote on the candidates who will be presenting to you today, honestly, the most important thing and the message that the mayor wanted me to deliver today is, regardless of which side you choose, the most important thing is to get educated and to get out and vote. So I just want to thank the board of APAPA and the supporters that are here today for providing the opportunity for people to really engage deeply with the candidates and the issues to be able to make informed decisions. These kinds of forums don't happen everywhere, and so we're incredibly lucky that the leadership of the Asian Pacific Islander community in Sacramento has had the foresight for 13 years to ensure that these kinds of forums are happening. We need to appreciate that and take full advantage of the fact that we are living in a country where all of us can vote. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much to Michelle Rhee, and thank you too to our community organizers. Before we begin today's candidate debates, we would like to take a moment and present the Community Outstanding Service Award to one of our most beloved public officials, Sacramento County Supervisor Jimmy Yee. Joining me on stage now are today's presenters, State Controller John Chung and Board of Equalization member Betty Yee.
Thank you, Pamela. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. I'm very honored to be standing here with the Honorable John Chung to recognize one of Sacramento's greatest leaders. And I'm a little biased because I fondly refer to him as my uncle. And but one of the things that I really love about Jimmy is that when you find someone who has dedicated his life to public service and bringing a discipline to the work that he has been educated and trained to do, he's just been such an effective leader, and from my perspective, really someone who has been so great about being sure that the integrity of our local government is upheld. And he's served with the highest degree of integrity, transparency, and always asks the tough questions. And I like to attribute that to the fact that he's a fellow Golden Bear Cal alumnus. I also like to attribute that to the fact that his background in civil engineering really has honed his way of thinking about every single issue. And I think the successes that we stand here celebrating within this great city of Sacramento is really in no small part due to the leadership of the Honorable Jimmy Yee.
Thank you, Betty. Betty pointed to some important facts. We have an incredible gift here in Jimmy Yee, who's given years, given decades to the betterment of this community. And we've only been stronger and better and more hopeful about our future because of Jimmy's service. Betty made some very insightful observations about what Jimmy brings to the table. Public governance is challenging. It demands a lot from you. And so what you bring to the table, oftentimes people do not see. So as Betty pointed out, he has tremendous integrity. Jimmy has extraordinary personal qualities and professional qualifications that have made a fundamental difference in people's lives here in this particular region. Betty alluded to the fact that Jimmy went to the University of California at Berkeley, that he has a civil engineering background. We know a lot of the planning, a lot of the development requires an expertise that many public officials simply do not have. And then I want to certainly encourage each and every single one of you, while you have this bountiful opportunity with Jimmy here to engage in a conversation. I had a great opportunity to catch up for a few minutes with Jimmy, and we covered a range of topics. We talked about pensions. We talked about the homeless. We talked about the revenue challenges. We talked about what happened when we built Sacramento Airport and the fact that it was during a very, very difficult time. The fact that you're seeing a 2% increase in ridership and what it means for the future of this particular region. And so we are all responsible. APAPA gives us this opportunity today because they want to elevate the public discussion. They want to make sure that you, each and every single one of you, are part of the public governance. You're part of the decision-making process, because when you bring fresh ideas and the best minds to the table, only glorious and great things happen. So it is Betty and my incredible privilege to award the 2014 APAPA Public Service Award to the incredible Jimmy Yee. Jimmy? Thank you.
Thank you, John and Betty. It's certainly a pleasure to be here accepting this award from APAPA. First of all, I'd like to say thank you to APAPA over all these years for doing what you're doing, because it certainly brings to us in the community what's happening out in the political world. And we're talking about initiatives, we're talking about the state legislatures, we're talking about the local legislature. And you can tell from what John just said, all the different issues that we work with over the years, it doesn't leave our mind. When we stop and talk to each other, we ask each other what our problems are. That's exactly what John was asking me. What are your issues at the local level? And we chatted. It's one of those things where it's nice that our state legislatures will ask us at the local level, what are your problems, so that we can work together to solve that. But I look back over the years, it's been 20 years, and this is my third career. And I'm finally closing up another chapter in my life. Let me just say this much, I'm certainly pleased to have been able to give the opportunity to serve our local community. I don't regret a thing that we have had to do, all the time that it's taken to serve in this capacity. So with that, I just want to say to APAPA, keep doing what you're doing. to develop other young individuals who are interested in becoming involved. That's all we have to say. Interested in getting involved so you know what's happening and put in your 2 cents as far as what you think is right. And that's all I'm asking. Thank you, Apapa, for doing what you're doing. Thank you for continuing to do it. Again, thanks for the honor today.
We'll get a photo. Thank you very much. Good afternoon. I am going to kick off the candidate portion of this forum, and it's really a great pleasure to be here. My name is Betty Yee. I'm currently a member of the State Board of Equalization, and I am a candidate for California State Controller this November. It is. I want to start by first thanking all of you for spending your Saturday here to do your part in being informed and better educated about the issues as a voter. I also want to encourage all of you to do your part in terms of getting people that you know who are not registered to vote, who are eligible to vote, to register before October 20th. And more importantly, I want to encourage all of you to sustain your engagement with your government and with your elected officials after the election. This is so, so important with respect to how we can ensure that the voice of this community continues to be heard at all levels of government. I stand here before you to first just say thank you. Thank you to many of you in this audience who have supported my service on the State Board of Equalization. And I want to also just acknowledge the tremendous work that our current controller, John Chung, has done. Throughout all of state government, I regard the Controller's Office as the one that has the most influence in really elevating the public's trust and confidence about our state fiscal condition. And that's important because we want to know that all Californians are have the confidence that their tax-paying dollars are being protected, that none of the dollars are being subject to any kind of wasteful spending or abuse or fraudulent activity, and that when we have to go back and ask the voters to continue to support the vital public services that make our communities strong and healthy, that having somebody really qualified in minding the store at the state level is so, so important, and doing it with the utmost transparency and the highest degree of integrity, and that's what we have in our current controller, John Chung. I look forward to, I look forward to carrying on that tradition and really being able to serve in carrying out the initiatives that Controller Chung has started with respect to really having an external focus to this office on financial issues. But more importantly, I want to just say to you, this is an office that requires deep finance experience, and that is what I bring to this position. I think for all of us as taxpayers in California, we want to know that we have a controller who understands state budgets, who understands cash management, who understands bond oversight, understands audits of state programs. But this is what really is going to give Californians a sense of confidence that, yes, their dollars are being protected. I am running also to on a campaign that's much bigger than just holding the office of controller. All of you are here because you are engaged. And the way that I have run this campaign has really been a grassroots campaign up and down the state. And I have done it because emerging communities, emerging voters like those in the API community, from our Latino communities, from our newer immigrant communities, our democracy is only as strong as the ability of each and every one of us to fully participate in it. And this is why we've been campaigning this way, because we want that engagement. We want to have those voices heard when it comes to state fiscal decisions that are being made for hopefully the benefit of all Californians. So let me just thank you again for attending this afternoon. There will be a lot of great information, but I also just want to say to CCN and the APAPA board, congratulations on the 13th year of convening this forum. And what I hope to see is really, as we move forward in the years to come, that our next generation of leaders will be emerging from right here, from the APAPA family up and down the state, because we need more leaders to serve in office, to represent our diverse voices within the API community, and more importantly, to really represent the face of hope in the future, that every person who works hard, whether you're from a recent immigrant background or from generations of an immigrant background, that we can make a difference in terms of being our own agents of change rather than waiting and sitting back and having others make decisions for us. And this is what it's about. It's about empowerment. And I would be honored to have your support in November. Please, please, let your personal networks know about the election on November 4th, and let's get that turnout up in California so that everyone knows the API community should no longer be ignored. We are not the sleeping giant. We have a voice as legitimate as any other community in California. We've got a lot of great leaders and candidates running today. Let's go get out that vote in November. Thank you all very much.
Thank you very much to Betty Yee, to John Chung, and congratulations to Supervisor Jimmy Yee. Now it is my pleasure to introduce to the stage Secretary of State Deborah Bowen.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. It's wonderful to be here. It's fabulous to see APAPA doing yet another public service with this candidates forum, which will be seen, of course, not only by people who are here in person today, but by many people between now and the election. And ballots have already gone out to our overseas and military voters. And it won't be that much longer before vote-by-mail ballots start going out in California. So a good time to get educated, a good time for people who have moved to update their address, and a good time for people who are not yet registered to register to vote, which you can now do online. Just Google register to vote in California, and that's better than me telling you the address because you don't have to remember it this way. You can just remember what to Google, and it's easy to find. You can complete your voter registration online if you have a California driver's license or ID. If you don't, you just need to print it out and fold it up and mail it in. We've made it about as easy as we can make it. And of course, the Secretary of State's office has a table out here, so if you want to register using a good old-fashioned paper form, you can do that. The voter registration forms are available in 10 languages this year. So you can register to vote online in the language that is most comfortable for you. And you play a very important role in this because you know people who probably haven't registered because of a language barrier. And if you will email them the link and let them know that the registration form is available in whatever language they need it in, you can really make a big difference in those communities that have had barriers to registration traditionally. This would be my last APAPA forum as Secretary of State. My term ends in January of next year. This has been the most incredible and wonderful experience of my life, and I want to thank everyone from APAPA for all the hard work that you have done in promoting democracy. You know, we live in the most incredible system ever devised by human beings. We govern ourselves. We choose. We decide. And for people who think it doesn't make a difference, it does. I was thinking back to some of the recent advances that have been made. Just the one bill that I remember, it's the one that said we're not going to have smoking in restaurants or hotels. One vote. That passed by only one vote. If there had been one vote in the state assembly that was not for that, we'd still be in smoke-filled rooms. How many of you like going into a place like this and not having it filled with smoke? Definitely. I think it's great. And look, the rest of the world has followed suit. Even in Ireland, when you go into a pub, nobody's smoking. I never thought I'd see that day. So it makes a big difference. There's one other big milestone that's coming, and I was glad to see Betty Yee here. You know, just regardless of who wins the controller's race, we are going to elect the 8th woman in the history of California to win a statewide constitutional office. And of course, it was March Fong Yu who broke the barrier for Asian APIs when she was elected Secretary of State, the second woman and the first Asian Pacific citizen. So now we're going to be up to 8, but you have, voters are going to have a choice between 2 women. And so do your homework, get registered, make sure everyone you know gets registered, and let's all get out there and show the rest of the world how we do democracy. We have been better on talking about it than doing it. So in California, I want us to show everybody how we do it. Enjoy the forum. Thank you so much.
We do have a number of office holders and candidates who are presenting and debating on stage, of course. At this time, I would like to introduce Greg Conlon, candidate for State Treasurer.
Good morning. It's an honor for me to be here with API, and I hope that my comments resonate with you. You know, most people don't know me in Sacramento, but I've been in California for many decades. I was at the California Public Utility Commission. I was the president, and I was on the Transportation Commission. So I'm a businessman and a CPA all my life. So I'm qualified for the job of state treasurer. That is not an issue. So my platform, and I passed out all of you my cards. My platform is to improve the credit rating. Except for one credit agency, we are the second worst in the United States, and it's a disgrace. Our unfunded pension liability is one of the main reasons that's true, and I will do everything I can to correct that. But I think more importantly is jobs. We are losing jobs in California at an astronomical rate. Toyota, Nissan, Occidental Petroleum, Nestle's. Now Tesla is moving their plant to Reno. It's really bad. So my platform will be to get pro-growth tax policies, bring them to the legislature, and advocate for them. And I just want to make one comment about the Asian community. I spent 12 years working on self-help for the elderly with Annie Chung in building a senior center in Chinatown in San Francisco and serving 25,000 seniors in the Chinese community in San Francisco. I was on the board of directors for 12 years. I was the only Caucasian, I was the only Republican, and I was the only male. So I was 3 for 1. But I enjoyed every minute of it. I learned how to eat Chinese food. I eat it all now. So I'm making progress with the API community. And I appreciate your vote on November 4th. Greg Conlon for State Treasurer. Thank you.
I really like that music. Can I have that all the time? Now, I would like to introduce to the stage State Senators Jim Nielsen and Ted Gaines.
Well, good morning. I'm Senator Nielsen, and my colleague is Senator Gaines. And we're both very dedicated to APAPA and to ensuring that we have informed voters and more citizens in America who understand that sacred right in this country. Along with C.C. Yin and many others, I'm proud to say I'm one of the founders of this organization. And this Voters Forum is one of the 3 significant cornerstones of APAPA. along with the scholarship and the internship program that has groomed up so many fine youth to become greater leaders. And for all of those who attend this forum to become motivated and, most importantly, informed voters. By coming here and listening to the candidates and listening to the propositions that are presented that you will be voting on, you won't be so confused. Many people say, gee, I don't even understand any of this. Well, that's because they don't involve themselves, and you have involved yourselves. APAPA's mission is to involve more Californians, more Asian and Pacific Islanders. And remember, APAPA welcomes all ethnicities. You see here today, all ethnicities are a part of this fine organization. Most importantly, come here, learn, be informed voters, and by golly, in November, go to the ballot box or turn in your absentee ballot. In this country, we have the opportunity to be the architects of our own destinies. Remember, you are the bosses. It is not government. It is the citizens who are the bosses in this country. But if you abdicate, if you sit back and do not involve yourselves, if you are not informed, and if you do not vote, someone else will command your destinies and the greatness of this nation. You do not have to. My esteemed colleague, Senator Ted Gaines.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jim. And thank you to APAPA and the opportunity to speak to you today. I want to thank C.C. Yin for his invitation and let you know that I am running for California State Insurance Commissioner. I am a small business owner. I have been in business for 33 years as an independent insurance agent and broker. I believe in competition in the marketplace and think that we could do a lot more in terms of inviting more insurance companies to compete against each other to provide good prices and good products for consumers here in California. I consider myself the ultimate consumer advocate and hope that you'll join me in November. But let's not forget how precious our freedom is. There's a lot of instability around the world. We take a look at what's happening in the Middle East, the challenges in the Ukraine. This is not an easy or simple world. It's a world with huge challenges. It's a world that commands excellence. And we need to do that through our university system to make sure that those who strive and do the best have an opportunity to see that borne out in a great education here in California. And we have one of the best education systems in the world. That's why people flock from all over the world, because of our great education, because we are a state of innovators. And as a small business owner, I tell you, it's been a struggle to do business here in California. And that's why I advocated for the Gigafactory. I was on CNBC News. I was on Fox News. I was quoted in the LA Times and fought hard for that. In fact, I went to Texas to tell the Texas governor, don't take Tesla, don't take the Gigafactory from us, we're going to fight for it. Now, we didn't succeed in that battle, but that was only one battle, and the war continues. So I will continue to fight that fight to make sure that we have job creation here in California, and I hope you'll join me in that effort on a bipartisan basis. That California is unique, the 8th largest economy in the world, which should probably be, I think, in the top 5 before too long if we can continue to grow this economy. So I want to thank you for the opportunity to say hello to you today and would love your support on Election Day, and hope that you will be fruitful in the future, and I will do everything I can to fight for California. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Chris Parker. I am a candidate for the Board of Equalization District 1. This is a district that goes from the Oregon border down to San Bernardino on the east side of California. So if you live in that area, I would appreciate your support. I'm grateful to have the support of Betty Yee and John Chung. I am the only active tax professional running for California's tax board. I'm an educator who teaches aspiring entrepreneurs about business and employment law, and I've been a small business person with my family for almost 30 years as I celebrate my 40th birthday a little bit later this year. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you to APAPA for 13 years of a fantastic voter forum, and thank you all for your support. It's 38 days until the election, so please keep the energy up and let's go. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I am Assemblyman Ken Cooley. Pleased here once again to be at APAPA. And, you know, in my city, Rancho Cordova, where I've lived since 1977, I was a founder. We actually had a terrible downturn started in the 90s when the Air Force Base closed. Cityhood has really turned that community around. We've grown a tremendous number of jobs. And as I go to the State Assembly, I've worked on balanced budgets, job promotion, and kind of investing in our future. In particular, this year, in this past session, my first session in the legislature, when they were looking to redo the way we support economic enterprise in California, they were leaving out closed military facilities. I called the governor's legislative secretary. We took care of military base reuse, added that into the process. We've had balanced budgets. We've put money into the middle-class scholarships, which are now starting to help parents putting their kids through school. We restructured school finance to support our schools, including English as a second language students, as they look to advance their lives. It's an honor to serve in the State Assembly, and I thank you again for the chance to be here. And I thank APAPA for their leadership in organizing this signature event. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Darrell Wu. I'm currently sit as the president of the Sacramento City Unified School Board, and I'm running for re-election. I've been in the community working and serving for 38 years. I helped start my sister's house. And I am currently their president. So I represent Area 6 of the Sacramento area, but I serve the entire community and I serve all our children. And for those of you who live in the district, I'd love your support. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. How are you? I'm Paulina Miranda, and I'm running for State Senator District 8. District 8 is part of Sacramento, the east part of Sacramento, so I hope I can come with your vote at the November 4th election. I'm here because I am a minority. I'm a woman. But you know what? 50.2% of the population in California, we are women. But still, I'm considering a minority because we don't have representation at the State Senate. And I want to be your voice. I want to be in your Senate, my Senate, the Senate of California, to represent the voices of the women in California. But you know what? I'm also a second minority. I'm a Latina, so I hope I can count with your vote in November. Thank you.
I'm Toni Colley Perry, and I'm running for City Council for District 8. It's a pleasure to have an opportunity to be here today. The family name Colley comes from Nathaniel Colley Sr., who is my father-in-law. And I have served since I was 17, the district of South Sac. 44 years I've lived in Sacramento, and I'd just like to encourage you to vote for me as in November 4th approaches. It's important that we learn how we can work together and build a culture that celebrates each other's culture and identity to participate. My slogan is opportunity and access for all, and that is because without opportunity, without access, without preparation, we're not going to be, our children are not prepared, our community's not prepared, and our businesses are not prepared. And I need for you to help me vote and help me teach our community how to participate and be active in community involvement. Thank you so much.
Aloha. As the only Pacific Islander running here, I'm running for the largest in Elk Grove Unified School District. It's the largest school district here in Northern California. They always say education is the foundation of democracy. And as a candidate that is running to continue to protect the backbone of this democracy, I hope that you support me, James Latoa, and election for Elk Grove Unified School District. Thank you, and mahalo to CC and the Papa for all that they have done. Thank you, and aloha.
Hello, my name is Carl Burton, and I'm running for SMUD. I want to make sure that the SMUD ratepayers in this area have the cheapest energy that we can possibly provide that is cleanest, as where we have clean air and clean physical plants. I appreciate your vote. I'm interested in making sure that we have the best energy where we can create the best and foremost more jobs for this area. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Anna Molander, and I'm running for Sacramento City Unified School District Area 1. That's downtown, Midtown, Land Park, Curtis Park, Little Pocket, and part of Southland Park in Sacramento. I'm running because I'm a mother. I have a first grader at one of the schools, and I'm running because I want to create long-term solutions for the problems that our schools have. I want to create schools that are part of our community and that invite the community back in and become community assets. And I'm a member of APAPA because my husband's Hawaiian and my children are Hawaiian. This group is very important to me and you do great work. I would really like to secure your vote in November. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, Sacramento. Good afternoon, APAPA. Thank you so much for this opportunity. This is CJ Jawahar running for the State Senate 4th District. You heard from Senator Nielsen before. He's going to be my opponent on November 4th. Please support me. I have 1/3 of my voters in Sacramento. There are about 10 cities are included in my district. Here's why I'm running. 2 reasons. We talk about minorities. There are 2 kinds of minorities in California today. The minorities who depend on California and the minorities who the California is dependent on. Both are not good. When I say the first kind, the people who are underprivileged, we need to help them. The other kind of minority who contributes 1/3 of our general funds, about $40 billion come from one segment of our community, about 400,000 people contributed. That is not good for our economy, because when the economy is down, then the 400,000 people are going to contribute less money. We need to fix both the ends of this spectrum. Thank you so much for my time here. And again, CJ Jawahar for State Senate 4th District. Please support me. With your support, I'll support. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jack Baines, and I do not own a 7-Eleven. I'm a candidate for Natomas School Board. I'm running to bring educational equality to the district and to make the district more transparent and accountable to the residents and the voters. I would like to thank APAPA for inviting me, giving me an opportunity to come here, and congratulate them on hosting a great event. I hope I can earn your support on November 4th. Thank you.
All right, it is now officially time to open the candidate debate portion of our program. To start our first panel debate, please welcome sponsor Yama Jamili from Bank of the West to introduce our candidates from the 7th Congressional District and the debate moderators.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. As mentioned, I'm from Bank of the West, Yama Jamili. I'm joined by my colleagues, Bruce Newton and Tom Rose, and we're very pleased to be here. To begin, I'd like to present our moderators first. Betty Williams. Dr. Helman Hassan. And Sunny Chung. Now, let's get ready to rumble. No, just kidding. All right, representing the Democratic Party for the 7th District's congressional race is Dr. Ami Bera. And representing the Republican Party is Doug Osee.
Yama, thank you.
Thank you. Good luck.
Good afternoon, Apapa. Good afternoon, Apapa. And ladies and gentlemen, this is a very special, important part of our candidates forum. I'll get right to it, but just wanted to say, take 10 seconds just to remember that we have men and women in our military serving around the world. So if you just give me 10 seconds of that to remember they're serving for our country, since this is the congressional side, if you will, just 10 seconds to say thank them for defending our country, our flag, our freedom, our Constitution. 10 seconds on the mark. God bless America. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. We are here now to do this very part of the congressional, as you will, and we have the great moderators who are going to ask questions. We're going to flip a coin. For those of you who like football, the first coin I'm going to say is either Raiders in Miami, but that's okay. We're going to flip a coin. You can say Osee, and you can call heads or tails. That will depend on who starts. Are you ready?
Okay. We'll take heads.
Oh, no. It's tails.
That's a rough start again.
One.
So what is that?
You get opening statement.
Okay.
They will now give us 2 minutes of their particular background, and for Ms. Oates, if you start first, we'd appreciate it, sir. And followed by Mr. Barrow, your 2-minute opening, please. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. I'm pleased to be here with Apapa. It's a delight to come and visit with you again. It seems like just a few short days when I was here at the first of these that CC and his colleagues put together. Again, thank you for inviting me and allowing me to join you today. Many of you know me as a former member of Congress. I'm also a husband, a father, and a small business owner. I spend my time out in the private economy. I spend my time working with people trying to grow mine and their businesses, trying to create jobs, things like that. Virtually everybody I talk to is concerned about the ability to continue to grow our economy and to create jobs. What's happening today in our communities is not meeting the need for growing our economy and creating jobs. That's why I'm running for Congress. What's happening is unacceptable. The fact that we have a flat job growth curve, the fact that, that household income over the last 5 years has declined from $55,000 to less than $50,000. Those are unacceptable outcomes. I can't read what that says. 1 minute. All right. So, my view here is that we need to elect people to office who understand the private economy and how to create jobs. That's what I've done my entire life. You can look around this community, you can see the things I've touched, and you can know that what happens when I get involved is things happen. That's what happens. I helped set up the city of Citrus Heights. Many of you have seen my name recently associated with reopening Gibson Ranch. I've created jobs along the way and opportunity for folks that live in this district. I look forward to doing that again. I've come to ask you today for your support and your vote. Leadership matters. Thank you.
Thank you, Sophie. And now, the Honorable. Please.
Great. I want to echo the sentiments. I want to say thank you to APAPA for bringing the AAPI community together to give voice. Now, my story always starts with the story of my parents who immigrated here from India in the 1950s, much as generations of Americans really in search of creating a better life for themselves, that opportunity. I'm a lifelong Californian. I grew up going to our public schools here in California from kindergarten through 12th grade, did the equivalent of a year's worth of community college, and then went to undergrad and medical school here in California at the University of California, Irvine. Paid $393 a quarter to go to medical school. Can you imagine that, given what the cost of education is today? Now, the reason why I share that part of my story is because I know I didn't get here by myself. I got here because of the investments that this country made in me and the opportunity that this country gave my family. That's what makes America such a special and vibrant place. Now, when I stepped out of medicine and decided to run for Congress, I ran on some simple promises. Congress has to be a place for service where we put people first. I ran on this promise of no budget, no pay that says if Congress doesn't do its job and pass a responsible budget, they shouldn't get paid. We passed a version of no budget, no pay, and we got a budget last December. I ran on this promise that we have to honor the commitments we made to our seniors and protect Medicare and Social Security, and that I would not take a pension until we strengthen Social Security and Medicare, not just for today's seniors, but for our children and grandchildren. I returned my pension. And we have to create jobs here, and I will refuse to take any salary increases until Sacramento County's unemployment rate is below 5%. I've honored all the promises I made when I ran as a candidate. Congress has to be a place for service. I've had the privilege and honor of serving our community here for the last 19 years as a doctor. I'd like to ask for your support to continue serving our community in Congress. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you heard the opening. Now, our particular panel of community leaders will ask the question. Betty will ask the question to Ms. Archie first, and we'll go down the line. Some questions have been given to them, and they have their own, so hopefully you'll find these questions important and informative. Betty, your first question, please.
Thank you, Roy. Good afternoon, gentlemen. The first question that I have for you, do you both agree or disagree with President Obama's health care reform? Why or why not? And the second part of the question, is it working to provide health care for American families? Why or why not?
You want both to answer the question, is that correct?
I do want them both to answer the question.
Well, first of all, I think this is a core issue for this campaign. What happened in 2010 when the Congress adopted the Affordable Care Act on a strictly partisan vote was that America got labeled or ladled on, America got burdened with legislation that people had not read and that have had enormous consequences for the lives of everyday Americans. First of all, let's acknowledge there are a couple things in there that are good. The fact that pre-existing conditions are covered, that's a good thing. The fact that kids in today's economy have the ability to stay on their parents' policies until they're 26, that's a good thing. But the Affordable Care Act does so many things that are adverse to our interests, such as it strips $716 billion from Medicare over the next 10 years. That's a bad thing. It raises taxes on medical devices. That's a bad thing. And contrary to what the President said, it does not guarantee you that you will be able to keep your doctor. The President promised us that we'd be able to keep our doctor. In fact, that is not the case. He also promised us that our premiums would go down. And in fact, premiums and deductibles have skyrocketed and continue to rise even today. The legislation was fundamentally flawed with the exception of a couple things. We need to go back and start over and fix it.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Brown?
Well, I look at this as a doctor, and healthcare has to be about giving me the ability to take care of my patients. As someone who's served our community for the last 19 years, working in free clinics on weekends, there's nothing more frustrating than when you see a patient who may have lost her job. Maybe she found a breast lump, and you can see that anxiety on their face. And we should never live in a society where you can't give that patient a diagnosis, help them know that this is a benign condition or whether it's cancer and get them the treatment. That's why we have to fix the healthcare system. Now, I've been pretty consistent. The Affordable Care Act is not the solution that I would have come up with, but it is now the law, so let's fix this law and make it better. I've been working in a bipartisan way to work on some of those fixes. I'm glad Congressman Ossie mentioned the device manufacturer tax. I worked with Republicans and I voted to repeal that tax. I also have worked across the aisle to introduce legislation, the Small Business and Family Relief Act. When this legislation passes, it's bipartisan. It'll mean $600 a year right back into the average Sacramento County's family's pocket. That's real money to families that are struggling. So we've got to work to fix this, make it better, but at the end of the day, healthcare has to be about taking care of patients.
Thank you. Next question, Dr. Hanson, sir.
Thank you. To the two congressmen, just want to ask you a question. I heard you two talking about employment, and you talk about a little bit about health and other areas. But my question is, I'm kind of missing something, and I just wanted to hear something a little bit more about the development of small business and so forth. Because I'm sure mom and dad and all the others hang around looking for a small business. They like to hear some kind of developments from you guys. And I think that's my question coming. Why are you running for the Congress, both of you? And I'd like to Mr. Osei to ask me first to answer the question.
I'm running for Congress to hold the government accountable for the promises it makes, the money it spends, and the results it delivers. And as it relates to the impact of the Affordable Care Act on small business, the promises that were laid out by the Democrats on their partisan vote in 2010 are not being met, and the consequence to American families have been adverse. I will acknowledge there are some things in that bill that are okay. But the fact of the matter is that it strips $716 billion from Medicare over the next 10 years. It forces employers to reduce hours to less than 30 in an economy that's already struggling. What we need are people who understand the implications and the consequences of legislation and who actually read the bills before they vote on them, so that the American people will not get burdened with undue regulation and excessive taxation. That's the number one issue in this race, is that the economy and small business is being burdened with undue taxation and regulation.
Small businesses are the backbone of our economy. Small businesses are where most jobs are created. So we have to make sure we're investing in those small businesses. I grew up in a family of small business owners, so I know how hard it is sometimes. You're going month to month, payroll to make ends meet. Again, that's why I've sponsored, working with a Republican physician, the Small Business and Family Relief Act. That's immediate relief and a 3% premium reduction. That goes right back into the small business owners. And right now, those small business owners should be putting that money back into their companies and hiring folks. So again, small businesses are the backbone of American employment, and we should be doing everything that we can to help small businesses. I was one of the Democrats that worked with Republicans to expand to the 40-hour work week rule. So we've got to do this in a bipartisan way. We have to work together as Democrats and Republicans, and that truly is what I'm all about.
Thank you. Gentlemen, please remember the 1-minute rule for your responses if you can. Be close. Mr. Sunny Chong, please, sir.
Good afternoon, Mr. Osei and Dr. Berra. We would like your view on the water situation in California, the north versus south, the proposed tunnels from the Delta to LA. What would either one of you suggest how to make water more available to the Californians to consume and maintain?
So Congressman Berra can go first.
Sure.
I've gone first twice.
Absolutely. We're in the midst of a historic, unprecedented drought. So we've been concerned about this from even before I was elected to Congress. So we've been working with local agencies. Back in January, we went to Fish and Game and the other agencies that regulate water flows out of Folsom Lake and ended the fishing season early. Flows were reduced to their lowest levels. We've been able to work with the local agencies to keep flow reductions at very low levels. And in fact, today there's more water in Folsom Lake than there was in January. We've also been doing a series of workshops through my congressional office, going out there, meeting with constituents, working with the water districts to let people in Sacramento County know how they can chip in and help us address the drought. And I think our community should be proud. We've reduced our water consumption about 20%. So we're all chipping in to come up with solutions. We also need to increase storage, and I think Congressman Ossie and I probably agree on a lot here. The thing is, I'm working on solutions. I'm not playing politics with this.
Mr. Ossie, this time.
Single word that seems to be missing in this discussion is storage. And what's happened in this state over the last 50 years, dating back to Governor Brown the first, is that one party has consistently advocated for additional storage, while the other has consistently provided excuse after excuse after excuse as to why we couldn't build storage. Now, I know Congressman Bera has put in a bill last week about trying to address water, and I applaud him for coming to the table finally to do that. But the fact of the matter is, we've known the solutions for over 50 years. We know the places where we can build new storage. We know the engineering that's necessary. What we need to do is get on with doing something and stop talking about doing something. That's a crystal clear difference between myself and my opponent.
Thank you both. We'll move to the next round, if you will. Betty, your next turn.
I was so interested in both answers. Sorry about that. Gentlemen, do both of you support President Obama's White House initiative on boys and men of color, My Brother's Keeper? Why or why not?
Who wishes to go first this time?
We can start with Albert.
I do, because we all have a role in stepping up to the plate, and it doesn't take it takes a father to raise a child. So you have to own that commitment if you're starting a family, if you're raising a child. We have to step up to the plate, not just as an African American community, but as a broad, diverse American community where we're coming together. That's what makes our country so strong, is this diverse community coming together. So we have to address these issues where we step forward as communities of color and honor those responsibilities that we have to do. And we've got to honor those things.
Thank you.
This is a great question because it speaks right to who we are. In my experience, walking around this district and talking to people, fathers, mothers, siblings, what I ask them is, if we all close our eyes, and without regard to the color of skin or the ethnicity or the height or the weight or the age or what have you, whatever criteria you want to use, without regard to any of those descriptive adjectives as it relates to our children, what is it we aspire to for our children? And I would submit to you that everybody's aspirations for their children are the same. We want our children to be healthy. We want them to grow up in an economy and a country that gives them the chance to go out on their own and succeed or fail on their own merit. We want them to thrive. And to the extent that the President's initiative moves us towards that goal, that's a good thing. But I will tell you, when you ask yourself this question, close your eyes before you answer. Don't take it in the context of white or black or Hispanic, because everybody's got the same dreams for their children.
Thank you. Next question, Dr. Hinson.
Thank you very much. Let me come around in a different direction as we can have a look, because you both said a lot of good things, and I'm trying to weigh out the situation now to see which one is really most effectively needed by the community. So I'm going to step up the pressure now. For both of you, we'll step it up. Both of you, if you are going to be reelected, and if you are going to be elected, give me your 3 best shot of services that you are going to mount up of what you are currently doing, or what you prepare to do to upgrade the other side that has been developed. I want to see something a little bit more into it.
Top 3, you say top 3?
Top three priorities
of your
is
new
that?
service that you're coming to. Bera, can you give me a little details
So the
on
top
those?
3 things that we'll be working on when I get reelected.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Correct.
So the number one thing that we have to do is create jobs here, right? I mean, in this recession, our community and our country was hit very hard. So we've got to create jobs. You know, we have a bill that's a bipartisan bill, the Partnership to Rebuild America Act. We know how to create those jobs. Let's rebuild our infrastructure. Let's rebuild our roads, our highways, our bridges. Put people to work. Give them a paycheck, not an unemployment check. So number one, I would work and we'd pass the Partnership to Rebuild America. Number two, I talked about the Small Business and Family Relief Act. Let's give that money right back to families in our community and small businesses. That's a 3% reduction. We would get that fixed. And the third area that I think is critical is education. I grew up going to vibrant public schools and so forth, and we've got to give control of education back to local communities, back to the school districts. So I would work as hard as I can to make sure we're making those investments and giving control back to communities.
Thank you both, gentlemen. We'll go now to Sunny Chong. And
Excuse me,
oh,
I have an answer. The number one issue in the United States today is the fact that the economy is performing very poorly in large areas of this country, and the consequent job creation and opportunities do not exist. The number one priority for me in running for Congress and when I'm elected will be to put in legislation that improves the opportunity for our job creators to go out and grow their businesses and hire people. That includes tax reduction, regulatory relief, and the like. We did that before when I was there before. If you'll recall, in 2001 and 2003, I was part of the team that passed some of the largest tax cuts in the history of this country. We also provided regulatory relief, and lo and behold, the economy boomed. Unemployment was down at 5%. Kids were coming out of college and were able to get jobs. So tax relief, regulatory relief, and the other thing that I think needs to be focused, we need to figure out how to rebuild the stature of the United States in this world. Ladies and gentlemen, that has gone downhill. Leadership matters on this issue.
thank you very much, both of you. Thank you.
Congress is viewed as dysfunctional by the nation due to the congressional partisan voting and not necessarily voting in the best interests of the country. What would you do to combat this feeling if elected to Congress?
So we give this one to Congressman Nelson.
That's a great question. There isn't any question that this Congress is a do-nothing Congress. They run around talking about, things that don't affect yours and my everyday life. What I want Congress to talk about is how to get the economy rolling, how to get the job creators, unleash the job creators, let them go out and create jobs. Let's quit trying to micromanage them from Washington. The fact of the matter is that the Congress adopted a 3,000-page bill called the Affordable Care Act. They hadn't even read it when they voted on it. It was passed on a strictly partisan vote, meaning it was all Democrats. And you and I, the everyday citizens of this country, get burdened with trying to untangle it. We lose our doctors, our premiums go up, our deductibles go up. I just think it's time for a little common sense in Washington that worries about what's going on in Sacramento rather than what their Wall Street supporters, special interests, Nancy Pelosi pals think they should be doing.
Look, we operate in divided government right now, so Democrats and Republicans have to figure out how to work together. One of the first groups I started when I got to Congress, and I'm a leader of, is the Problem Solvers. 23 Democrats, 17 Republicans came together just saying the status quo doesn't work. We've now grown that group to over 94 members, and let me just share a small story of what we can get done. Working with a fellow problem solver, Chris Gibson, a Republican from New York. He's a retired Army colonel. I'm a Democratic doctor. We were having dinner together, talking about what I think is one of the most horrible things that's happening in America, how we're treating our veterans, the backlog. The Department of Defense has one medical record system. The VA system has an entirely different medical record system. They don't communicate. We wrote a simple bill that said by 2017, you had to have a single medical record system between the DoD and the VA, housed on a secure server on the cloud so your records would move transparently over to the VA. Chris was on the Veterans Committee. We introduced that bill. He got it attached as an amendment, and it is now law. That's what can happen when Democrats and Republicans are willing to work together. We'll serve our country.
Thank you both on that. Betty, if you will.
In light of the Ferguson situation, I would like to start with Congressman Olsey. There's been a national discussion on how the situation was handled. On a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being the highest, how do you feel that President Obama handled the Ferguson and still handling the Ferguson situation, and how would you do anything differently?
The issue in Ferguson is probably one of the most difficult we face as a country, because when something like this happens, the rhetoric gets very hot very fast, and people get their backs up, and by the time they get their back up, in many cases they don't know what the facts are. So one of the things I'm hoping that now outgoing Attorney General Holder and his team will do is establish what the facts are as to what happened. If the facts show that this young man was treated, just gunned down, then somebody needs to be held accountable, just pure and simple. And I don't have any. I would apply that to anything. I don't care what color your skin is. It just doesn't matter to me. If the police acted inappropriately, then somebody's got to be held accountable. And I'm hoping that Holder's department can get the facts established so we can get to a solution for this problem. It's a great question.
So what happened in Ferguson is tragic, and it speaks to the challenges that we still have and still face with regards to race relations. Right here in California, the tragedy of the CHP officer beating the homeless woman speaks to how we still have a long ways to go with regards to race relations in the United States. We have to talk about these things, and we have to move forward. We have to make sure everyone's civil rights are respected. That has been a key thing that we've been working on. Here in our own hometown, we had the brutal murder of 2 Sikh gentlemen in Elk Grove in my hometown. That crime remains unsolved. We've been working on making sure that we address these civil rights issues, that we worked with the FBI to make sure hate crimes were categorized, so they didn't lump everything together, but that Sikh Americans were categorized, Hindu Americans, etc. We have a long ways to go in making sure people understand that America is a diverse country and we respect all faiths, all religions, and give everyone that credible chance.
Thank you both for an excellent question. Before I go to Dr. Hanson, I'm going to take a point of personal privilege. For those of us who do respect, we're sorry that Mr. Holden is stepping down as our Attorney General. We hope the next person will be as fair and equitable and apply justice to all Americans as he did. So for some of us, we just applaud Mr. Holden for what he did as the Attorney General of the United States of America. And now I'll move to Dr. Jensen, please.
Okay, now that we are touching around the Obama, I hope there's not going to be a great topic for everybody. But I just want to bring to our attention, because to me, I'm looking at the relationship of those 2 congressmen. The president's and his strategies of the airstrikes they have done in the ISIS and military positions. Do you agree for this, what he's doing, or do you agree for his decision on this matter? Is it healthy for America in a way that does the Congress really supporting his ideals on this? I'll get
I went first last time.
No, I think I got better.
Sure, I'm happy to answer that. I'm on the House Foreign Affairs Committee, and we've been looking at this deteriorating situation in the Middle East for a while now. There's no military solution. That's an American-led military solution on the ground in the Middle East. The Iraqi people have to be willing to fight and die for their own country. That said, there is a need for American leadership here and things that only America can do. I did vote to give the president 2 months to put together a coalition and to train and equip Syrians to fight for their own country. This has to be a Middle East solution. The Saudis have to step up to the plate. The UAE has to step up to the plate, because we're not talking about months, we're talking about years. And we know what happened last time when there was an authorization vote to go into Iraq. We were there for decades, and we spent trillions of dollars. We can't do that again.
I just want to compliment Congressman Barrow because it's the first time I've heard him really articulate anything on this situation. I appreciate it, given his membership on the International House Committee. The situation in the Middle East has challenged every world power from day one. And it is hubris on our part to think that we're going to be able to solve it by picking and choosing amongst the winners or the losers. I supported having the president take action, for instance, when the Yazidis were driven up into the mountains and were suffering accordingly. I regret that he took a year to get to that point of dealing with ISIS. I do hope the coalition of the unwilling that includes such powerhouses as Albania and Estonia and the Netherlands, the UAE and Bahrain, I hope that that works. But at the end of the day, if you don't put somebody's boots on the ground to hold the land you bomb, we're going to be right back at this in a few months.
Continuing on the world problems, the Russia and Ukraine situation, to me, it seems to be almost a no-win situation. As a new congressman, what are your thoughts on what should the president to be doing, or what direction should we be moving in?
Okay, this one, it's my turn to go first. What we're seeing play out around the world is the consequences of America retreating. This is a classic example, again, that leadership matters. We saw this in the 30s when Hitler rose in Europe. And we're seeing it again across the world, in one case with al-Baghdadi in Iraq, another with Putin in Ukraine. When America retreats, the world devolves down into chaos. This is a classic example where leadership matters. What we need to be doing is articulating a clear vision that our allies can accept with the knowledge of certainty of American action, and our enemies can know the same, that if they challenge our national interests, or they go out and attack Americans traveling overseas or elsewhere, or our allies, there are going to be consequences. Right now, what you're seeing is the consequence of a policy that imposes no cost for bad behavior.
Leadership does matter. Yeah, last week we had the Ukrainian president in Congress addressing a joint session of Congress. We've been talking about this on the Foreign Affairs Committee. We have to send a strong message to Vladimir Putin that this is unacceptable. We also have to do that in conjunction with our allies in Europe, because when we speak together, we speak in a much stronger voice. So we have been ratcheting up the sanctions, ratcheting up and pushing forward. We also are leading on the issue of Iran trying to get nuclear weapons here. In-house foreign affairs, we've led the effort to ratchet up the sanctions that have actually brought Iran to the table. Now's not the time for us to step back from those sanctions, but negotiate from a position of strength, because the world needs American leadership here. And when America leads, the world is a better place.
Thank you both. This is our final question of our congressional panel, if you will. Betty, you get the final one.
The final question for me would be, why should we vote for you?
Are we also going to do a close, or is this our close?
It's a question.
This will be a question. Sure, I'll take it. I ran for Congress for the same reason I became a doctor, to put people first, to serve my patients and to serve my community. That's what I've done for 19 years as a physician here in the Sacramento community, and that's certainly what I've done the last 2 years in Congress, trying to put people first and serve the community. We're at our strongest when we're in this together, when we're looking out for one another and we practice the common good, strong public education, when we understand that it's better to give someone a paycheck, not an unemployment check, and we're creating those jobs, when we're addressing the injustices of communities like Ferguson or what happened in Elk Grove, where we embrace the diversity of who we are as America. That's when we're at our best. And I'm going to continue to lead by putting people first and honoring the promises that I make.
I would answer your question by emphasizing to you that leadership matters. That people who are aspiring to these offices and hope to serve here need to have a clear vision of where to take this country. Right now, ladies and gentlemen, our country's off track badly, and it's a function of the leadership that's in Washington today. That's a fact. I want to go back for a moment. Congressman Bera mentioned the Iranian nuclear armament issue. That is the #1 foreign policy problem we face as a country. If we don't keep that under control and prevent the Iranians from getting a nuclear weapon, it's going to be a catastrophe. And what we've seen, going back to the leadership matters issue, what we've seen out of this administration and its allies in Congress is, it's okay, Iran. We'll go another 6 months. We believe you. We trust you. You know, it's okay. Ladies and gentlemen, you ought to vote for me because leadership matters. Because I'm not going to fall for the little kabuki dances that some of these competitors on the world stage and here domestically are going to cause us.
Thank you both on that. Ladies and gentlemen, we will allow both of our distinguished candidates to give a closing before we move on. Which person would like to go first for your closing?
I think I got to close down.
Please.
I think you get to close
Sure,
first.
I'll go and close. And 1 minute or two? 1 minute, close? Okay. You know, elections are about choices between folks. You know, there's a clear choice here. I support comprehensive immigration reform. I think we've got to address comprehensive immigration reform. Congressman Ossie doesn't support comprehensive immigration reform. I believe when we're in the midst of this drought and we're looking at a snowpack that's disappeared, I believe the climate's changing. Congressman Ossie is skeptical as to whether the climate's changing. I believe we're at our strongest when we embrace the diversity of who we are as Americans. That's what I'm fighting for, an inclusive America. I believe when we make investments in our children and grandchildren, they are able to achieve their full potential. I believe we've got to honor the promises that we've made to our seniors and protect Social Security and Medicare. I'll fight against anyone who wants to privatize Social Security. Congressman Ossie, when he was in Congress, voted to privatize Social Security. That would have been a disaster.
Not true.
I'm going to continue to fight for everyday American people.
Congressman Bera said elections are about choices, and that is precise. You have a choice here, ladies and gentlemen. You can vote for somebody who knows small business and how to create a job and has signed the front of a paycheck as an employer, or you can vote for somebody who has been a lifelong government employee and whose votes in Congress reflect a lack of understanding in the economy. You can vote for somebody who's in Congress today who has consistently voted to strip $716 billion from Medicare and yet sits in front of you this afternoon and says he's going to protect Medicare. You can vote for somebody like me who would never attack Medicare. You can vote for somebody who is not interested in raising the retirement age for Social Security. You can vote for somebody who has voted to raise the retirement age for Social Security. Ladies and gentlemen, elections are about choices. You have a choice between somebody who knows the economy and somebody who doesn't. That's the #1 issue in this race. I ask you for your vote. I hope you have a great day.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you would do me an apapa for an exceptional debate between two extraordinary individuals, please give a round of applause again to Congressman Bera and Mr. Ossie. And please prepare our community leaders for the questions, Betty, Dr. Jensen, and Sonny Chong. This concludes our congressional. We will now move over to our state senate. So give us a moment. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm doing well. See you. Doctor,
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I hope you found the information informative as you make a choice for your United States Congressperson, which helps our president and our nation run. So thank you. We'll now move to California, our state senate race, if you will, and we'll put that together in just one moment. Thank you for your time.
That That was an incredibly informative debate. Thank you so much to the candidates as well as to the moderators. Now, I would like to begin the debate for the state Senate race in the 6th District. Please welcome sponsor Yen Marshall of AT&T to introduce our candidates and moderators.
Good afternoon. On behalf of AT&T, I would like to thank APAPA for their support of the community through public forum like this. You encourage participation from members of the public to be engaged in public services and civic duties like this. It's really, truly a privilege for AT&T to support APAPA's vision, mission, and education voters forum like this. So thank you very much. And now it is my pleasure to introduce the panel for the Senate District 6. First of all, I have Ms. Linda Ng from OCI. And Mr. Stephen Webb. And Mr. Indy Kalirai. And Dr. Helman Hansen. And the first candidate, we have Roger Dickinson. And Dr. Richard Pan. Okay, now let the discussion begin. Thank you.
As we stated before, ladies and gentlemen, thank our sponsor for sponsoring this particular segment. This is our state Senate race with two incredible gentlemen who have done so well in the state assembly. Both of the records are extremely magnificent, serving the people. Now we move to the next level. It's your choice to decide. But before we start, if you will, I'll do the coin toss. This time we'll do the coin toss in the hand.
All right, I'll take heads.
Heads?
All right.
The extra bottle. Thank you.
You drop it again?
Did you drop it again?
You drop
A lot of money that way.
Need a larger coin.
All right, and it's a?
Not a football field, sorry. Heads it is.
You took heads, that's fine. I took heads, yes. All right, excellent.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, here we go. What I think is going to be a very spirited debate, if you will. Our first question will come from Ms. Linda Ng, if you will, to the candidates. Please, Linda.
We get an opening.
Opening statement, please.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you, and I want to thank APAPA so much for holding this very important forum, and I want to thank CC Yin for his leadership, and APAPA, and all the people we're proud to have many of the APAPA interns work with us as well, and I really appreciate what APAPA is doing to really promote public affairs here in our region. I'm Dr. Richard Pan. I'm a pediatrician, an educator, small business owner, a father, and I've worked hard to try to make our region a safe and healthy place for our families, bringing real-world experience. And I think that when people look at what they want from government, they want representatives with real-world experience to help solve the problems that they face. And that's why I'm proud that as a pediatrician, I work to get children health care coverage, expand our clinics, to be sure people get taken care of. But today, we're going to be talking about the state Senate. And I and my my colleague here have entered the state Senate, the state assembly at the same time, and I'm proud of the work that made them do in the state assembly. I've worked to be sure that we keep our fire stations open. When I was running, they were talking about closing our fire stations. I've now brought in over $6 million in federal matching funds that work with the firefighters to keep our fire stations open. I've worked to be sure that families who are busy don't have to look at the expiration dates on their medication or baby food, because I authored a bill to make that illegal. I've worked to keep our environment clean, to be sure that we keep lead out of our water, out of in our wilderness areas. And I've certainly worked to improve, to get more people health care coverage, leading the charge to implement the Affordable Care Act, being sure that you cannot be turned away because you have a pre-existing condition, reducing the number of uninsured in 1 year by half. But I'm running for the state Senate because there's much more to do. We still have another half of people to get insured. We still have to help our students be ready to learn. And I'm proud to be here to answer your questions. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Dr. Pan. Mr. Dickinson, sir.
Well, good afternoon. Thank you all for being here, and thanks for Papa for staging this annual event, which we all enjoy greatly. I am pleased to be running for the California State Senate after a career of 36 years here in Sacramento and living in the same neighborhood the entire time that my wife and I have been here in the same house for 27 years and representing many of the same constituents for over 20 years at the local and state level. I ran a small business for 10 years before being elected to the Board of Supervisors, so I know what it means to meet a payroll and to meet the obligations that government sometimes imposes on business people. And I'm proud of the record that we established as a member of the Board of Supervisors, the conversion of McClellan from a closed Air Force base to a thriving business park with over 15,000 people and over 200 businesses and entities there, of creating a program called Birth and Beyond that is a home visitation program for at-risk families that's reduced child abuse in those families by over 90%. Being involved in getting Rayleigh Field built and preserving as a Chinese historical site the town of Locke. As a member of the State Assembly, I've continued to work on behalf of our community, carrying legislation signed by the governor that could save ratepayers of the Regional Sanitation District upwards of $500 million. Last year, carrying legislation that was signed by the governor that will bring $1.6 billion to the state of California for transportation purposes and over $100 million for thousands of jobs here to the Sacramento area. And this year, carrying a bill signed by the governor that will allow the city of Sacramento to continue a very successful program to evict those in apartment complexes and rentals who have gun or drug violations where the landlord is unwilling or unable to take that action to make sure our communities are safe.
Thank you both for your opening statement. The candidates will have 1 minute to answer the questions that our great panel have, so we'll start again now. Linda, please.
Well, thank you, Rory. Gentlemen, the plastic bag has become a very big environmental concern. So how do you both vote on the plastic bag bill and why? So let's go with Assemblymember Dickinson.
Hey,
Thank you.
thank you for that question. I voted in support of the plastic bag ban, but it's not the first time I have been involved in this issue. In fact, in 2009, as a member of the Board of Supervisors, I raised this issue. The simple fact is that the proliferation of plastic bags in our environment causes enormous environmental damage. It causes damage to fish and wildlife, and it is something that is easily eliminated with replacement by reusable bags. For those of you who have and moved to reusable bags, you know that in many cases they're superior to plastic bags. But the arrangement that was arrived at for the legislation is a fair one. It preserves jobs. It puts us on a track to stop degrading our environment, and it's an important step in the right direction for our economy and our environment.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Pan.
Well, thank you. Not only did I vote for the plastic bag ban, I was actually one of the co-authors of the bill, so I'm very proud of that work. And I've worked hard in my career to help protect our environment. As a pediatrician, I know how important the environment is in maintaining the health of our community and of our children. I've worked hard to be sure that we implement AB 32 so that we reduce climate change. I'm proud to have worked to eliminate lead from in our environment, in our water. And I'm also proud to vote for a bill by Senator Fran Pavley that regulates and stops fracking and keeps our groundwater clean. And I'm also proud to have voted for a bill to ensure that our oil companies pay a fee to ensure that if there are spills, that those will be cleaned up. So I'm proud of my work with the environment. I was a co-investigator for the National Children's Study, the largest study in the history of this country to look at environmental influences on the health of children. And so I'm going to continue to do that in the state Senate.
Thank you both for that question. We'll move on now to Stephen T. Webb, please.
Thank you very much, Roy. Gentlemen, do you believe that Covered California is serving the health needs of Californians, and why? We can direct this to you, Roger.
Oh, Dr. Pan.
So I'm very proud that we've been able to have the most successful implementation of Covered California, or actually of the Affordable Care Act in the country, as the Washington Post noted. But there's still much work to do to make it even better. I'm proud to have led the effort to ensure that not only did I author the law to ban denial for pre-existing conditions, I worked to bring people together, all the enrollment agents, so that we could work together to try to maximize the number of enrollments that we have. But it's not just a matter of enrollment. Your insurance card actually has to mean that you can get care. So I've been working. I just had a hearing this past week with the Medi-Cal program. We've expanded Medi-Cal, so we're bringing in about $4 billion in new money for health care. But we need to be sure people can actually find someone to take care of them. So we're addressing the issues of the networks, ensuring that people can see a physician or other health professional, including particularly physicians who are culturally competent and who are culturally sensitive to the different groups that are there. We are also working to be sure that we can reduce health care costs as well. And I believe I can keep going for a long time, but I see the stop sign. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Please watch that.
I have a long history of involvement with the health issues in our community, including chairing our Cover the Kids Children's Health Initiative that brought health insurance to all our children in Sacramento County, and chairing a task force for the California Supervisors Association trying to achieve health care reform in the mid-2000s. With respect to Covered California, I think we've made some steps in the right direction, certainly enrolling more in Medi-Cal and getting coverage for those who haven't had it in the past is important. But until we get to universal coverage, until we get to having access to quality health care for all, we won't have accomplished what we need to. That's why I support, and my opponent does not, single-payer health coverage for all Americans. And we also need to allow those in allied health professions to be able to do more. We have a shortage of doctors in this state and will for years to come. So we need to allow nurse practitioners and pharmacists and physical therapists and others in the health professions have the ability to help those as well in order to get quality care for all.
Thank you both for that question. Indy, we'll move to you, sir.
Thank you, Rory. And thank you, Papa and gentlemen. We have a local control funding formula for schools in California and in your school districts. Is it helping schools financially? Why or why not?
We adopted the local control funding formula last year along with the Common Core reforms as a way of improving our education system and also giving local districts much more authority and discretion over their money in their own districts, letting those school trustees decide what best money can be spent on. And I think it was a step in the right direction, a very important step. But we also required something called Local Control Accountability Plans, or LCAPs. And those are the plans which the districts have to prepare, which will hold their feet to the fire to make sure that they're delivering what they say they will. We did provide more money, especially for districts where there's more English language learners and more kids from disadvantaged communities. But we will need to continue to increase funding for education in order to get ourselves back where we need to be. We can't be 47th or 48th in the country in per capita spending on education and think that we are going to get top 10 results. We need to make sure that we're investing in education.
Thank you. Well, first of all, before I answer that question, I just want to be very clear that I have fought for my entire life for health care coverage for all, and I think I've done more than most to try to expand health care coverage, starting with getting 65,000 children health care coverage, as well as getting another 3 million Californians health care coverage. So I just want to make that clear on the record. As far as the local control funding formula, certainly we are going to give more tools to our school districts to make more local decisions. We need to be sure, though, that the funding that we do provide school districts is appropriately focused on children who have the greatest need as well. And one of the things that I'm also working on is that right now we have funds that we should be getting from the federal government to help support resources such as school nurses and psychologists and other mental health professionals. That funding has been stopped for several years. And thanks to the work that I've done, we are freeing that money up again. Because right now, for example, Sac City Unified School District laid off 9 school nurses because that funding got cut off. We need to get that going again. We need to give our teachers the tools they need to help take care, be sure students are ready to learn in the classroom.
Thank you both. Before we go to Dr. Jensen, personal comment. As a former teacher, I ask everybody in this room who has a child or a cousin or whatever that goes to school, the local controlling funding only works if you participate in your schools. I don't care if they're fluent or non-affluent. If you don't participate to support those kids and those teachers, all the money in the world is not going to educate our children and make America #1 and California #1. So support your schools by being in your school for them or no money. Thank you, Point Prince. Dr. Jensen, your turn.
Thank you. I think I got the right mic now. To the introduction of the bill for mandatory kindergarten and all-day kindergarten. This is a very important issue that we need to address it very clearly and make sure that everybody can understand. Our children, it's very important in our lives. To you both, do you think it is a good idea to put them into early education? And what kind, is it healthy for them to go into that area? What is your view on those things?
So first of all, I agree with you that there's a tremendous body of research demonstrating the importance of access to high-quality preschool, as well as I've supported the mandatory kindergarten bill as well. The research is sound. The Perry Preschool Project showed long-term impacts beyond just simply high school into life in terms of reduction in involvement in the criminal justice system, better actually overall pay, higher likelihood of graduating high school, and so forth, many positive incomes. I'm proud to have worked on toward universal preschool. We still have a ways to go. But I'm proud to have worked on the First Five Commission with Mr. Dickinson as well on those issues, and then certainly in the State Assembly have supported universal preschool, and that's something that certainly as a pediatrician I bring a lot of credibility in terms of my background, my knowledge about this particular issue, and that's the type of leadership I will bring into the State Senate as well, that real-world experience working with children, knowing the research, knowing the data.
Early childhood education and development is absolutely essential. And indeed, as long ago as 2006, I teamed up with County Superintendent of Schools, Dave Gordon, to take that issue out to our community and educate the population about the need and the promise of universal preschool. And we haven't quite gotten there yet, but we certainly need to. I did that as the chair of the Sacramento First Five Commission, which I served as for the first 10 years of the commission's existence. And as part of the commission's work, we also created a school readiness program, which we extended to several districts working in concert with a host of partners to make sure that kids were ready to learn when they got to school. Here's the fact. We know that if kids are not reading at a third grade level by the time they reach third grade, the chances are they will never catch up. And it is appalling to me that you can look at the zip code where someone is growing up and make a judgment about their life expectancy. We need to change those kinds of statistics. We need to make sure that we are not planning the number of jail cells we need based on how kids are doing in the third grade, which is what happens now.
Thank you both for that one. I'll leave my personal comment out this time. I'm one of those zip codes.
There you go.
Linda, please, if you will, your question.
Okay. Next question. Gun control has been a very, very controversial issue. So would you please share your opinions and your position on this very important issue.
Linda,
Which issue?
Yeah, the gun control issue.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
What is the initiative again? Which one, so I can tell the audience which one?
Yes, I've got it.
Please.
I've got it.
Okay,
Gun
thank you.
control.
This is a very controversial issue, there's no doubt about it. But we have to do what we can to reduce gun violence in our communities. In fact, gun violence is one of the leading causes of death among our teenagers in Sacramento County and across the state of California. Therefore, I have supported legislation which I think will have the effect of reducing gun violence while not infringing on anyone's Second Amendment rights. We live in a time where the U.S. Supreme Court has made a judgment about the interpretation of the Second Amendment, and we need to respect that. But we also, more importantly, I think, need to be working with young people at early ages and throughout, as I have, creating a coalition called Yes to Youth, to give children in particular positive alternatives, things to let them turn away from joining gangs, from getting into a culture that leads them into gun violence.
Violence, including gun violence, is a terrible epidemic here in our country. And I've worked hard to be sure that we address that issue. I've worked, for example, in our local area, in the Mack Road area. It's part of my assembly district right now. There were 15 shootings in March. And I worked with the police, the local clergy, other organizations like the Health Education Council, the business community, to bring people together. And we actually created a program that summer called Summer Night Lights, and we've actually had no shootings, no violence over the summer because of that. I'm going to continue to work, and I'm proud to have the support of many of our law enforcement folks, the police chiefs, the police officers, and many others, because of the work that they know that I will do to work with them to try to reduce violence and keep our streets safe.
Thank you both. Mr. Stephen T. Webb, yours, sir.
Thank you very much, Roy. The California water crisis. Gentlemen, should California invest more state funding in the process of so-called desalination, transforming of sea water, better known as salt water, to fresh water, to build our water reserves, and so can we supply needed water? Two parts. Also, the parts of California during the drought period. Roger.
I think it goes that way.
I think I'm up next. Sorry. Thank you, Mr. Webb. You know, the drought, certainly we can all see the impact of the drought, and related to climate change, very concerned that this is going to be an ongoing issue. And so actually both of us voted for a water bond that's going to be on the ballot, so I hope that all of you will vote for the water bond. It's a very important piece that's going to help us build a lot of very important pieces of our water infrastructure. One of the things it's not going to build is the tunnels. I oppose the tunnels. We are going to be investing in recycled water as a way to try to generate, in some senses, generating more water for use by recycling. There's also more money in there for water storage so that we can, again, ride out the dry years. And if there's a wetter year, that we'd have more water there. In addition, there's also important money in there for flood control. So here in Sacramento, we sometimes have to worry about too much water as well as not enough. And so there's $100 million for flood control that I helped work on as well, because as we need to invest in our growth here, that's another important step. Thank you.
The drought presents us all with an enormous challenge, but it also presents us with an opportunity, and it reminds us that water is always precious anywhere in California, including here in Sacramento. That's why I believe that the opportunity given us by the drought is to reprioritize our approach to water to ensure we have a sustainable water future. That will include reliance on conservation. That will include greater use of recycled water. I carried legislation the governor signed in 2011 on that subject for the Regional Sanitation District. It will include desalinization in my estimation. We need to make it economic, but I think we do that. The research is leading us that direction. And we need to do more to manage our groundwater, a lot more. That's why I authored legislation signed last week by the governor, along with 2 bills by Senator Fran Pavley, that have been called the biggest change in California water law in the last 100 years, because we became, by virtue of that legislation, the last state in the western United States to finally manage our groundwater.
Thank you. Thank you both on a very important issue of water. Indy, if you will, sir.
Oh, it's my turn, sorry. Thank you. It's been stated many times in recent times that Sacramento is one of the most diverse cities in the nation. And what are your plans to encourage or engage the multicultural relations between the ethnic groups in your districts, our region, and within the state?
Over more than 20 years, I have been intimately involved with all the diverse communities of Sacramento, because I'm a firm believer that in our diversity there is strength. From holding community festivals to participating in the events of all our diverse communities over the years, I think most of you in this room have seen me at one or more of the events of your particular community. I also authored a resolution this year that denotes November as Sikh American Awareness and Appreciation Month. And I am proud to have participated in activities, as I mentioned earlier, such as making sure that the historic town of Locke is preserved. These are all necessary activities as we make sure that our diverse communities are included, because when we make sure that everyone is included, then we become a stronger, better community.
I'm certainly very proud that our region is among the most, if not the most, diverse in the entire country. But unfortunately, we do have a history that we have to remember. It was a state senator from Sacramento that actually submitted a bill that became a law that caused Japanese American state workers to be fired just because they were Japanese Americans. And I'm proud to have carried a resolution that apologized for that action by the state. Thank you. We have here, thank you. We have here, well, certainly we celebrate our diversity. We have seen violence against members of our very own community, the Sikh community, the Muslim community, others, because people look different and people bore hate. And I've been proud to stand up with people to be sure that there's a strong message that will not be tolerated here in this state. I want to continue to work with the whole diversity of our community here, working to be sure there's opportunities. No matter what ethnic or racial background you come from, you should have an equal opportunity to achieve a good education and to get the kind of job that your talents will allow you to bear, and I'm proud to continue to work on that issue. Thank you.
Dr. Jensen.
Thank you. We ran out of questions, so I'm going to reapply the question next door to me, because I think it's very important because of diverse community in California itself. As we know, this is the most diverse community with the fastest ratio of growth here in California, and that's fine. And so is Sacramento. My question is here: do you guys have a fair idea of what is the ratio of the population of the diverse community, and what is the plan to kind of counteract with the system as the quick developments coming into Sacramento?
So I'm just trying to clarify exactly what your question was. So just,
my question is, do we have a strategy for the diverse community in coming future because of the vast, quick developments of the growth here in Sacramento?
Of the growth,
okay. So certainly, I think that we have in Sacramento with the growth of our community, we have to be sure that there is truly opportunity for everyone here in Sacramento. I'm proud to be endorsed by Mayor Kevin Johnson because he knows I'm the one who's going to be helping to guide that growth and being sure that we do that in a smart way. And we're going to be working to try to keep our communities healthy and safe for our middle-class families, to be sure there's opportunity for people. I want to bring that practical real-world experience as a doctor as someone who's a father, has to raise my own children here, someone who is a small business owner who's still balancing the books and meeting payroll today, right now, someone who is who's been an educator and working with our teachers. We have a lot of work to do to be sure there's truly equal opportunity in our community, something that unfortunately, although people have worked on it, we've not gotten there. And I think that we need someone here in leadership and political leadership who understands the real world challenges people face. And thank you. So that's what I'm dedicated to do in the state Senate. Thank you.
Our final question for the panel, if you will be addressed by Linda, if you will. Linda, the final question.
No,
Okay.
Mr. Danson should have a chance.
I did ask you, sir.
Thank you.
I don't want you to miss that question, sir. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. As a member of the Sacramento Area Council of Governments, I was the initiator of what became known as the Blueprint and was the model for state legislation carried by Senator Steinberg, who does support me as well, that establishes the approach that we're taking as a state to growth, to make sure that while we are growing, we also are protecting our environment. We need to make sure that we preserve all the values of our community. That's why, as a member of the Board of Supervisors, I also worked very hard to recruit businesses to California. Now, some of my opponent's supporters have criticized me for traveling as a member of the Board of Supervisors to try to recruit companies and airlines to bring service to us, things of that nature. I'm not sure I understand that criticism, because I don't know how we build our economy and ensure our future if we're not engaged in outreach efforts of that kind. I've also been at the in the middle of public-private partnerships such as McClellan, which is, as I mentioned earlier, enormously successful and a model for the entire country.
Thank you both for that. All right. Linda, our final question, please, for our candidates.
Okay, climate change is expected to have significant widespread impacts on California's economy and environment. Do you see climate change as an important issue that should be a high priority for the legislature to take action on, and why?
I view climate change as the primary social, economic, and environmental issue of our time. If we do not successfully address climate change, future generations will live in a world which will be rapidly deteriorating in every respect. That's why I have been a leader locally, at the state level, and nationally on climate change issues for the past decade. In fact, I led the effort in Sacramento County to have the county join the Chicago Climate Exchange, where we committed to reduce the county's greenhouse gas emissions by 6%. We did that in 2006, not last year or the year before, 2006. Last year, I authored legislation signed by the governor that will make what's called the Green Building Code into the standard building code of California, because that will help us reduce our greenhouse gas emissions from the built environment, which now constitute 30 to 35% of all our emissions. And I will continue to work on these issues. That's why I'm endorsed by every single environmental organization on a statewide and local basis.
Thank you both for that final question, if you will. Closing, if you will. Sir?
I get to answer that one.
I didn't see your hand.
Thank you. Well, certainly as a public health, with background in public health and science, I know how important climate change is and that we need to address this immediately. And as I made reference in my previous answers around the drought as well. And I'm proud to have been a leader in trying to work to make people aware of and to work to try to reduce climate change in our environment. Proud to have voted for Fran Pavley's bill to regulate and stop fracking and protect our groundwater. Actually, I'm going to be holding a hearing of the Health Committee on the impact of climate change on and asthma. We also know, of course, that climate change, not only is it causing issues with the drought and impacting our businesses, it's also impacting our health. West Nile virus is expanding because of climate change, valley fever, and so forth. We need to address climate change. We need to address it now. When I first ran in 2010 in a district that was considerably more conservative and less liberal in the Senate district, I did not waver in saying that I want on-time implementation of AB 32, even though every other candidate, both Democratic and even the Democrats, said that they wanted to delay that implementation.
Thank you both. Please, ladies and gentlemen, give a round of applause if you will before we start closing, please. Closing remarks for our candidates. Who would like to go first? Dr. Pan?
I
well,
opened,
wait a minute.
so I thought
You want to flip a coin again?
No. You don't get the first word and the last word. So he goes
Okay.
first.
You notice he keeps
the
trying to get in the
first
last word. But anyway, that's okay. I don't mind.
Get the first word.
All right.
So thank you again for having me at this forum. I appreciate, okay. All right, 1 minute. All right. It's like, I haven't gotten started. You're holding up a sign. All right. So we're going to start the time again. All right. Well, again, I want to thank everyone for being here. I want to thank APAPA for holding this forum. You do have a choice before you do for the state senate. And I'm someone who's going to bring real-world experience to solving the problems that are facing our community. As a state legislator, I've been proud of the accomplishments that we've been able to achieve, reducing the number insured by half, being sure we try to get more resources to our teachers to be sure students are ready to learn, to make our communities safer and healthier. And I'm proud to be supported by many people, whether it's in the Central Labor Council, SEIU, and the AFSCME and school employees, or business community like the Sacramento Metro Chamber or the Elk Grove Metro Chamber, by police officers and police chiefs and the firefighters and teachers and nurses and many other people, because they know that I will work hard and bring my world of experience to make a real change in our communities. And that's what this election is really about the future, and that's what I hope that I can earn your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Pan. Mr. Dickerson?
Well, once again, thanks to APAPA. You know, elections are about the future, but the past is prologue. And when you look at the record of my opponent and me, there are some clear distinctions. We've heard a couple times of votes for regulation of fracking. Well, let's be clear. I voted for a moratorium on fracking until we know it's safe, not to allow it to continue, unlike my opponent. I voted to make sure that the insurance commissioner had the power, just like he does with auto insurance rates, to also regulate health insurance rates. My opponent voted against it. I voted in favor of getting cancer-causing chemicals out of infant sippy cups. My opponent voted against it.
I want to correct that on the record, please.
Voted against it.
That is not true.
And spoke against it on the floor. I voted to protect farm workers like all other workers. My opponent did not support that. I voted to increase credit protections for your personal information from data breaches. My opponent voted against it. That's an example of our differences. Thank you for evaluating those as you consider who to support for state senate.
Before we close this, Dr. Pan, did you want to say a word on that, because out of respect to
So I encourage you to look up our voting records on LegInfo. You will see that I actually voted for the limitation on BPA. I think that's the bill by Betsy Butler on BPA. I wasn't sure exactly which farm worker bill he was referring to, but I did vote for the bill, actually on several occasions, to protect farm workers from heat and heat stroke. And so I just want to be sure the record is clear, but I actually encourage people to look directly on LegInfo and look up the voting record directly, because don't take my word for it, look it up.
APAPA, ladies and gentlemen.
Excuse me, he does not get the last word. Because I encourage you to look at the record too. I encourage you to go back and look at the floor debate on the bill related to getting cancer-causing chemicals out of infant sippy cups, and you will see my opponent stood up and spoke against the bill.
Closed is now closed. Now you see what happens at the Capitol, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. Before we do this, I have to, out of respect, please take this in a way it's meant. Some of you used to see the fist, you call it as militancy. Some see the fist as faith. Black, white, brown, red, yellow. If we all come together as one, we can serve as one. Both these gentlemen have served. Give them a round of applause for their service.
Thank you.
And please give our panel another round of applause. That ends the state Senate. Please vote.
Thank you so much to our candidates and moderators for that lively state Senate debate. We have two more candidates for office who have joined us. I'd like to give them an opportunity to address the audience at this time. Please welcome Joseph McCray.